You're listening to the Ordinary Joe's podcast with Joe D and Eric B. Ordinary Joe's podcast.
All right, back with another movie review type show that we're doing today. And if you guys watched the Disney Plus episode, not even a remake, it's an original, right? The Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt. And today we're going to talk about it. Quick review, recap. Hopefully, me and Joe disagrees on a lot of things because you don't know how many good, I don't want to say feedback we got last week when we talked about Black Widow, because we have a bad habit of agreeing on a lot of things. And this time we actually agreed the movie wasn't that great. So today we are going to recap, review, tell you our thoughts on the Jungle Cruise.
Glad you said it right, because in my head I'm saying Jungle Book.
Oh man, I'm already thinking it's the bare necessities, simple bare necessities.
I was disappointed when I didn't see Baloo.
You did. It was called Rock. All right, man, let's go ahead and get this started. I am Eric B.
And I'm Joe D. And we are the Ordinary Joes.
Right, 2 weeks in a row. Yes.
There we go.
All right, man, as we always do, Joe, kick us off and let me know what your thoughts are. I got a lot. I told you last week. Oh my God, I can't wait to tell you. So I got a lot. So you go ahead and tell me.
Good. I'm glad you do. Well, like you said, Emily Blunt, The Rock, together. And is this I'm just because you're the Disney expert out of the two of us, is this one of their attractions, this movie?
Yes.
Okay, well, at least the title, right? It's okay. So it's based off of one of the attractions at Disney. And I gotta say, I actually enjoyed this movie. If it wasn't for this podcast and my wife, most likely I wouldn't have watched it. Nothing against, The Rock or Emily Blunt or anything like that. But I'm generally a horror action, suspense sort of guy. So the family movies I usually tend to kind of stay away from. I'll watch them whenever they show up. But I was actually really surprised at this movie that I liked it. It was funny. Let me start with that. I haven't been on this ride, but I'm told that part of the ride is like there's a lot of puns or these sort of dad jokes, and that is in the movie. And I think The Rock was hilarious. He was nailing them. My wife loves those, so she was laughing hysterically. I was probably laughing more because she was laughing
at it.
There was kind of similarities to other movies that we've seen before from Disney, but I don't know. Like, for instance, I'll just say The Mummy, right? I mean, there was an obvious kind of comparison, and
thank you for pointing that out. Thank you.
it was kind of obvious to me. It kind of felt like the movie has a feel of like kind of The Mummy mixed with a little bit of Indiana Jones and some, Pirates of the Caribbean in there too. So
man, were you just in my head? I was like, hell, come on.
That was the feel like I was getting from it. And I kept saying it to my wife. I was like, wait a minute, isn't this just like she's like, can you shut up and watch the movie? But it didn't bother me. One thing though, like, I don't know if you noticed this, and I was kind of confused. It was right off the bat. They played the Metallica song "Nothing Really Matters."
Yes,
in the beginning, and once again later in the movie, and I was really surprised about it. It wasn't the actual song; it was a cover, some sort of symphony style, real soft. But it was cool. Like, I appreciated it right away. I was like, "Oh man, that's Metallica. Where's this movie going?" But yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was funny. I mean, how did you feel? What are your initial thoughts on it?
All right. So, yes, there was Metallica that they played, and it was they redid the rendition just for this movie. So it wasn't like a sample. They purposely changed it around just to throw us off. But key listeners like you, 1,000 other people was like, is that Metallica?
Yeah.
So that, right there was already like, to me, that was like, okay, why is this song on here?
Yeah, that guitar is just way too noticeable.
I mean, that's like if you play the riff from Beat It on one of these movies and just changed it up a little bit, you're like, wait a minute, that's Eddie Van Halen. That's Beat It. So So to piggyback everything you just said, I wanted to watch this movie and critique it to the T from the ride, right?
Okay.
When they came out with the Pirates of the Caribbean, we're like, okay, how are you going to throw in everything from the ride onto this movie that we're going to enjoy? Okay, you can't do the whole thing from the ride because it's like, what are you going to do that's kind of like the ride, but not really the ride? So what twist are you going to throw us so we can say, okay, yeah, this was on the ride. Okay, this is not on the ride. So the dad jokes, the puns, if you ever got on Pirates of the Caribbean, you can tell these cast members are just enjoying their rides. They're like, they're like, look, I'm not going to steer the boat because I haven't steered the boat since 1955. Because if everyone knows the boat on the Pirates of the Caribbean is on tracks, right? So it's on tracks, so they don't ever have to steer. The whole scene with the hippo and then the little girl going, wait, hippos aren't in the Amazon. It's like they say that when you're on the ride. They're like, oh, I don't know where these hippos from, but wanted them here 1955. So those things are in the movie. So it's kind of like, wow, this is, the whole, even the piranha and they're like, I don't know how these piranhas are going to taste because of the water. And, those are jokes that they say on the ride. So key listeners, key people were like, wow, this is exactly what the ride is and what they talk about on the ride in the Amazons. But everything from the brother and the sister trying to find a person just was mummy to me. Mummy.
Yeah.
Let me find someone who can take us downriver. Let him just find us who can help us with this map. That was like all mummy. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
The adventure
even
part.
even the characters were similar. Like Emily Blunt's and the girl from the Mummy were very similar.
They're both that, and it's funny because we talked about this last week when we were talking about, Disney trying to be subtle with the gays. They did it in this movie too with the brother. It's like, oh, what happened to you? Why won't they take you? And he was like, well, I just didn't like the right type of person. He was like saying it, and and it was kind of cool because The Rock was like, well, you can like whoever you want, I guess, he didn't
trip off of it.
No,
I noticed that too, and I was like, that's interesting that Disney, and we said like Marvel and all of them, they're really trying to be inclusive with everyone, and I think that's pretty cool. The way they did it, it was a cool little moment between them.
Yeah, but as far as that, I mean, it's like the whole, and then the plot again. Spoiler alert if you guys haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But the whole plot with like, okay, finding the heart or the tear or whatever that thing was, just rang out Pirates of the Caribbean. The very first one, if you guys haven't watched the first Pirates of the Caribbean, they were all already dead. And the only way they can break the curse was to spill the blood of something, of a girl into whatever. So this is exactly what they did. They're like, okay, let's break the curse by, doing this during the moonlight. And I'm like, man, I honestly thought Disney would be a little bit more creative on their storyline on how they did everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're right. The movie was great. I loved the action-packed part of the movie. I think if they had someone else other than Dwayne Johnson in there, it wouldn't have been as good. It would have been funny, but it would have been as good. So it was just one of those where it's like, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. I just could not I always just the whole 2 hours and whatever minutes in the movie, the runtime of the movie, I just kept saying, this is the Mummy.
Yeah.
This is Pirates right here.
Yeah. The part for me that reminded me the most of the Pirates are when you see the bad guys, the dead bad guys. That just it reminded me so much of the dead pirates, and it was kind of like, okay, but like I said, I think I've maybe watched one of the Pirates of the Caribbean's movie. Actually, I wasn't a big fan. So for me, and I didn't really care for the Mummy, so I wasn't bothered too much by the similarities. To me, it was kind of like, all right, well, they went for it again to see if they could get it right. Just in my humble opinion, I know these are really loved movies. The other thing I found kind of weird was the other bad guy, the German dude. I forget who the guy's name. He's been in a bunch of movies. I love him. He's great.
Jesse
Watch.
Plemons.
Yes.
Jesse Plemons, yes.
He's also in the Breaking Bad. A lot of people don't remember him from that. He was Jesse Pinkman's replacement, but anyway, getting sidetracked. But anyway,
he was also on Battleship. I don't know if anyone caught that.
Yeah, with Rihanna, the one with Rihanna.
Yeah, with Rihanna. He's the one that puts on the helmet the first time, and he's telling everybody like, this is the reason why they don't like the sun. He was like the nerdy naval officer. That's why I kept saying, where is this guy from? And then, I IMDb'd and I'm like, oh, it's the redhead. It's the dude from Battleship. Okay.
Yeah. He's great. I mean, I love the guy, but I didn't really understand too much like his character. Like I get it. He played this I don't know, German kind of Nazi-ish sort of character who was trying to find the same thing that The Rock and Emily were trying. I'm sorry, I'm going to use their real names because I don't remember the character names. And it was just kind of like out of nowhere because they already had the other bad guys, and so they just kind of threw him in the mix. It felt like, you know what I mean, just to kind of push the movie forward in a way, or to have them have something to run from, I guess. I didn't really get that. It didn't bother me because he was kind of silly. And again, it was funny. Like to me, the movie, it saves it with the comedy and just the Rock and Emily Blunt's chemistry. They really are. Like when I first saw the trailer, I was like, The Rock and Emily Blunt. Oh God, they're just slapping everybody together. But it really worked. And then my wife actually told me that The Rock wanted Emily Blunt in the movie. Wow. that he really pushed to get her on there. So I was like, okay, woman, maybe that's what it was. Maybe they're friends. Maybe he just likes her work. Who knows? But yeah, and I think the time was a little much. It was like 2 hours, 6 minutes
on the same path. That's what killed me about that movie.
Yeah, they could have shaved it off, 20 minutes at least.
Yeah.
But what I did notice too, a lot of the movie actually looked like a ride. Like when they're on the raft and they're doing all that, it feels like you're on a Disney ride or you're watching like one of those shows at Universal Studio, the stunt shows or something like that. That's kind of what it felt like to me when I was watching.
And I think that's what was disappointing to me is when you get on the Jungle Cruise, and the Jungle Cruise is one of those rides in Disneyland that you get on if the line is less than 15 minutes long. Because if the line is over 15 minutes, you kind of don't want to waste your time because the ride I think is about 12 minutes. So like it's one of the long rides Disney has. Okay. It's one of the original rides too, but it's the same thing since 1955. It's the same thing. The only thing different is, the water level is lower. The cast members are different. They didn't really add a lot of different things from the original to now. So when you watch the movie, how they didn't take a lot from the ride and add on to the movie. The whole storyline was not even on the ride. The jungle guys or whatever they were called, the villagers, they're actually on on the ride, and they're there. Trader Sam is also part of the ride, which was a controversial back in the days that of course these, I don't want to say millennials, but they were like, Trader Sam is just kind of racist. You're taking this guy who's African and, you're doing this. So they made Trader Sam into a female, which I didn't mind that they made her into a female because she had a role, but not really a big role. And in the ride, it's like you hardly see him anyways because he's at the end of the ride. He's holding a little head, and it says like 2 for 1 or whatever. It's like 2 small heads for one of your heads. It's kind of that joke on the ride. So it's kind of like, well, okay. And it's funny. It's all about the cast members, right? The cast members on these rides, the way they initiate every conversation or every little thing makes the ride funny. So it's like, if you have one of those guys like, hey, it's Trader Sam wants 2 yours for 1, you're gonna be like, oh yeah. But the cast members and The Rock did a good job in this movie, because he kept his passengers entertained. He kept them doing this, and it's funny because the Jungle Cruise was from a 1951 movie that Walt decided, let me take the African Queen, which is Walt Disney's favorite movie, with who's this cast in here? Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. Is that who it is? Yeah. Oh, wow. So he took the ride from that movie. He took the ride from African Queen, made it into the Jungle Book. Jungle Book.
See, here we go. And I'm nodding along like, oh, wow, interesting.
I'm gonna catch how many times we say that. That's one already. He made it into the Jungle Cruise, and it's funny because in the movie, the Jungle Cruise, The Rock is actually dressed the way Humphrey Bogart was dressed in the African Queen. Oh, okay. So if you take his getup, his little hat, his little suspenders, that's exactly how he was dressed in the movie.
He looked like a diesel Popeye to me. Like, so I kept thinking,
can that shirt be any more tighter?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I gotta give props to The Rock, because I was never really a fan of his. I didn't watch wrestling, but his character was so huge that you had to know who The Rock was, whether you watch wrestling or not. And when he first made the transition into movies, he did the kind of, I guess, expected thing. He did the action stuff and roles where he didn't have to speak too much, but he's come a long way as far as his acting skills. If you would ask me 10 years ago, can I see him starring, in a Disney family movie and being good at it and carrying the movie, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. But he could tell he really put a lot of work into his acting, and man, kudos to him. I've become a big fan of his over the years. But what I did find funny is that just about everyone in this movie has an accent. If it's not from, a Brazilian accent, because they're in Brazil, they have British accents. Right. The Rock is the only one who's speaking with an American accent, and he's not American. We come to find out he's actually like Spanish. He's a conquistador.
Spaniard, yeah, that's right.
And he does like terrible. That's the one thing that was bad. His Spanish pronunciations of words sound. He put like a Hawaiian kind of twist on them, like when he would say La Quinta and like other things. I'm like, he's saying it with a Hawaiian accent. It doesn't sound Spanish at all.
And it's funny because I said the same exact thing. I'm like, why are they even trying to make him just say it? They should have just that scene. They should have just dubbed his voice, or make him say it and hit. I don't know. You're right. You're totally right. It's just like, the Spaniards, the bad guys that they got on there, perfect, because they didn't even throw subtitles. Did you notice that they didn't even throw subtitles?
Oh no.
And either that or I just didn't turn mine on. But they had this 45-second conversation when they were by the river, and I'm like, what the hell are they saying?
That's funny. I don't think they did. They had subtitles when he was speaking to the tribe.
Yeah.
But there was none. And I probably didn't notice it because it was in Spanish. So I understand a little bit of Spanish. So maybe I just.
No, it's funny because they didn't show the subtitles. But then when they went to Trader Sam, she explained to them what was going on. Like they got to be by the river or the jungle, all this stuff. And I was like, all right. Okay.
Maybe it was for suspense. They didn't want to let us in yet on what was going on.
So if you're Spanish speaking or understand it, you guys are already a heads up. You're ahead of the game with us with me, because Joe understands a little bit of it. La Quinta. Get the La Quinta.
That was so bad. Oh man.
What, Paul Giamatti? He didn't have an English accent to you?
No, he had an Italian accent. He was Nilo, I think was his name. And I only know that because Paul Giamatti is like one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I wish he would have had a bigger role, honestly.
Well, it's funny because we were saying like, Paul Giamatti, it's like, I was like, his grandson ends up becoming the manager of NWA later on, right? Nilo.
Oh, I'm like, wait, really?
Nilo. His grandson becomes the manager of NWA later on. But he goes from Italian to Jewish. So
Jewish, yeah. That's what happens.
Man, this is one of those movies where, it to me, it's kind of like the Black Widow when we talked about Black Widow last week. There was like so much going on that I couldn't focus on. I mean, besides the CGI, besides me being lost in the movie and getting into the movie, it was a great movie nonetheless. But man, I just could not freaking the storyline, the story writing, and I just applaud Disney a couple weeks ago about their story writing and how good they are when it comes to Marvel. So maybe Marvel writers are different than Disney writers. Maybe it's the same different writers, and the Marvel writers always hits it on the nose, except for Black Widow. But the Disney writers, it's like they couldn't come up with something more original, and that's what killed me about this. I mean, it's like all we needed was a boulder and a whip, and then we would have got Indiana Jones in this movie. It's like, Yeah,
it definitely was a little thin. You kind of get the feeling that they were more excited about putting out a movie version of the ride, as opposed to really diving in and making a cool story. Because, like, even the part with the tree, I don't know, that even resembled kind of Avatar to me a little bit too. It was just like little bits and pieces of different movies, and it's weird because it doesn't have like it's really in-depth story, and I think because of that it drags a bit, especially because it's like 2 hours on. It felt like they were on that river for like an hour.
Oh my god, at
least. And then they kind of repeated similar gags where they think something's happening, and really he had it set up because it was part of the ride. And
I'm just looking for something on the show and on the movie, so you can keep talking while I'm looking for it.
So it's like they do that a couple times, and so you're kind of like, all right, I see what's going on, like let's kind of get to the point. And then again, spoiler alert, I knew right away when she found all the maps and she questioned him about, knowing about this and having looked for it himself. And he said, he tells her his story, and then he kind of reveals that he's done this before and he helped people. And then he's like, I've been stuck on this river ever since.
Yeah.
As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, okay, he's one of them.
He's one of them.
He's dead. And even that, I can't pinpoint what movie that reminded me of, but there's another Disney movie where it kind of resembles that same sort of storyline of someone who's like, you think they're alive and they're not, or
that was Pirates.
Oh, was that Pirates?
Yeah. Where Johnny Depp was part. He had him, and the whole thing was part of the curse. So, 49 minutes into the movie, when they're on the river and they're already on the river, and The Rock was saying, okay, we're going to go through the water. You want to go to the right? And she's like, no, go to the left. And he's like, no, you want to go this way. He was trying to tell her which direction to go. He's been there a lot longer. So he knows the difference. Owe it to Disney for always putting in a sexual preference in a movie that they try to hide. So in the map sequence, when they're doing the whole map thing, I don't know if you can see it. See, can you see? Let me turn down my brightness. In the middle of this map, and it's funny because I caught it right away, and then like my kids were like, "What are you talking about?" Let me turn off this light.
I can't make it. I mean, I see it clearly, but I don't see.
In the middle of the map.
Oh, I see it.
See it?
I see it. It's right there.
Right in the middle of the map. Again, owe it to Disney for putting in little stuff like that. I was like, what is
the deal with Disney in that?
I don't know. I was like, when I'm watching these movies, Marvel's, Disney, I'm always looking for Easter eggs, right? Okay. Like when I saw this map and I was like, was that just a penis?
Yeah.
And the good thing about Disney Plus and having it on your phone, you can rewatch it over and over again. And sure enough, it was a penis.
Yeah, I don't know. They have this sick thing that they do. And it's not just like an urban myth, because this has been for years. Yeah. I remember the first instance I remember was Cinderella, and not to get off topic here, but still on Disney and their perversions, right? I mean, not Cinderella, excuse me, Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid, yeah.
And if you have the original VHS release of The Little Mermaid, the white kind of padded thick cover that opens, right? On the cover, I think they have Ariel or whatever, but in the back, they have a castle, and on the top of the castle, there's like these kind of pointy things sticking up. If you look at one of them, it's a freaking dildo. There's no way, like, it's a penis. There's no way around it. Like, we were looking at it, me and my cousins, because my cousins had the whole collection. We're like, oh my God. And in that movie, there's a scene. There's 2 weddings. It's the first or the second wedding. And there's a little priest guy. And they show he has like an erection. And it goes up and it comes down. And I'm like, mind blown. And this was like years later. I was already like maybe in my teens when we found this out, and I'm like, what the heck? And then there's like the Lion King. I think Aladdin. There's one.
Alice in Wonderland with the SEX with the.
Was that, I think that's the Lion King one.
Was that the? Oh yeah, yes, Lion King. Yes. I mean, you're right. I don't know what's it. And it's funny. They always try to be subtle when it comes to this. The VHS things you can get away with because it's like, who the hell wants to sit there and rewind it and then stop it? I mean, you do have people who did do that. DVDs got a little difficult to hide things because you can, now it's digital. You can actually, but now with technology the way it is, I sat there rewinding it. And the thing is, you can't, I've tried it with an iPhone. You can't screen record, that little scene. You can't even screenshot it. So that's why I couldn't show you guys. Because, Disney has this thing where if you try to screenshot it, your screen will be black. If you try to screen record, whatever you're recording is going to be black. So that's a good thing Disney's doing. I think Netflix does the same thing where you can't do any of that.
Okay.
So that's why I showed it to you the way I showed it to you. But it's just like, Disney, seriously. Did you not think by you drawing these wiggly lines? And it's funny because on the ride itself, they have a exact map that they were talking about. Now I'm going to want to see, I'm going to get on that ride and be like, yep, there it is. There's the penis.
Yeah.
It's been here this whole time. Wow.
It has to have been like one of the, like something that the original Disney artists did as a joke between them. And maybe it's just been passed on over the years. And the trick is to see how many penises you can put up without people noticing.
I thought of it more like this. You have your director who's like, I need the map scene. Where's the map scene?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you want a fucking map scene? Here's your fucking map scene. Here it is right here. And
that could be a good one too.
Big dick right in the middle for it right there. I mean, it's like if you watch it, it's like 3-4 seconds. Like the scene is like 3-4 seconds. But again, with technology, you can stop it right where I stopped it. And you're like, look, it's a dick.
See, that tells me a lot more people are involved. You know, the fact that they flashed it really quick, the editor's probably, oh, wait a minute, we can't show this.
Yeah, there we go. And it's funny because my coworker and I was talking about it because he watched it and I told him to look out for it. And he was like, at least they were nice enough to make it a circumcised dick and not, I was like, yeah, you're right.
It's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Disney. Sorry for everyone. We're getting off topic here, but Disney has a habit of doing this. They have a habit of hiding things, and it's not even subliminal. It's like right in plain sight. You just have to be an eagle-eyed watching, and just so happens on the first take, the first time I'm watching it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. And I'm like looking around and seeing if anybody else saw it. Now just imagine if you were at the movie theater and you're sitting there, big ass screen, and you're like, that was a dick.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I think, but they're good at that. Like, I think there's a misconception with Disney that everything's always, kid friendly and, it's all about the kids, because that's part of why I wouldn't have been in a rush to watch this. But there's a lot of adult content. I mean, a bunch of people getting killed, shot, stabbed, all that stuff. And I was like, wow, this is pretty deep. But then you think about the cartoons. I mean, Bambi had her mom killed, and that they a lot of times they deal with heavy topics. Coco was one, Pixar. That was pretty heavy topic. I mean, it's talking about afterlife and all that stuff, and they just have a way of just putting their spin on it and throwing some music and some bright colors, and it's just like you just accept it. You're like, oh, this Disney was great.
Putting the word Disney all over it. You're just Disney.
It really is. It's. I think they've brainwashed us all from childbirth.
I mean, you said it from the beginning in the movie or this podcast where you said, if it wasn't for your family and your wife, you never would watch something like this. But they've been giving us so many good things in the past that we have to watch it. We have to see what it's about. We have to know, this and this and that and that. And again, we start off topic a little bit talking about what Disney does, but this is how Disney's been for the past how many years, right? They've been putting, I mean, like hell now I'm dying to see other Disney movies that they put out to see if I could actually, see if they, put this in. Maybe if I look closer in the maps, I'll see boobs. I don't know. Maybe, they show the map more than once. And that's the funny thing. They show the map more than once. And in the other scenes, they didn't show, this whole penis thing. It was just that one scene, and I'm like, wow, okay. I guess the writers realized I'm going to fuck with everyone, and I'm going to throw this penis in one time and see if they can catch it.
See who catches it.
Damn Ordinary Joe's podcast, you ruined my run.
Let's tag them, Disney. We know what you're up to. Your tricks.
Yeah, but again, they don't let us screenshot it. I'm going to have to take another phone, take a photo of it, and be like, Disney's penis.
I had no clue. What if you start screen recording before you turn the app on?
I think I never tried it, but let me see. Let me kill the page. Let me kill that page. Let me
maybe that's
record.
A workaround.
It's a good workaround. Let me see. I don't even know if I can open the page. Let me see. There's the page. There's the Disney logo. And then let me hit the Jungle Cruise. This works. Joe's a genius.
Oh, man. A lot of people are going to be getting some free Disney movies.
No, look. It actually told me. It actually says some kind of copyright thing of some prevention thing that I can't
Interesting.
record. Sorry, Joe. Did not work.
We tried.
Sorry, guys. But there's people out here who knows exactly how to get around this. They know.
Yeah.
Like it got me as far as that when I'm screen recording, and then I got to that part. And then when I got to there, black screen. So,
damn geniuses. Dun, dun, dun. Now let me ask you, as someone who has frequented Disney, is there an attraction that you would like to see a movie made out of?
That's not a movie yet.
That's not a movie already, because I think most of them maybe are, but
that's a good one. I mean, Big Thunder Mountain could be a movie. Could be about a runaway train. That could be a movie. Indiana Jones is already a movie because that was based out of a movie. Splash Mountain. I can't see that as a movie. Maybe the Matterhorn could be a movie that could be made. There's a Yeti involved, so maybe that's something they could put in together also. Other than those two that I just mentioned, I think everything else is already a movie or somewhat of a movie, right? Because Star Wars, Star Wars is already a movie. Who wants to watch Autopia? Driving the cars. Nemo, the submarine ride, that's already kind of a movie. I'm trying to think of all the rides in my head. Then you go over to the DCA side, Guardians of the Galaxy, that's already a movie.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of room left for them.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they went with the Jungle Cruise.
Yeah. I mean, Haunted Mansion they did a movie of, and that was a terrible movie. The one with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was Haunted Mansion. Eddie Murphy. Let me see when it came out. Eddie Murphy's wife. They did justice a little bit to the dancing. Dancing people in the room, but 2003 it came out in 2003 and it was with Eddie Murphy. Yeah, it was not the best to me.
Yeah, I don't even recall that one. Now, back to this movie. How did you feel? Like, did you find the love interest between them believable? Because I kind of, me personally, I didn't really see it. I was like, oh, okay, they're going that route.
Emily Blunt is a beautiful female. When she did the movie, was it the one with Tom Cruise? The Live Today, Die I forget the name of the movie. Anyways, when she did that, I saw that more a believable two type love characters. Even when she did Quiet Place with her husband, right? It's like, that's you can tell that's a good love thing. But fucking The Rock is just this big, massive guy, and you have this English, small, petite female that I can't. I mean, if you want to compare this to The Mummy, at least in The Mummy, what's her name, Rachel Weisz and the guy, Fraser. Yeah, Brendan Fraser. At least they were like kind of the same size. They had this chemistry together. Where you see The Rock, it's like he's this big guy.
Yeah, it was so weird. I mean, they did have chemistry, like as far as acting and the banter between them, and bouncing jokes off each other and all that. But I felt like it was a bit of a stretch for me to believe that, she's been how many years, most of her life after this thing. And, she finally gets a chance to get the leaf for this, basically it's some leaf from a magical tree that has healing powers, and she wanted to use it to heal like the world and use it for medicine. And they only get their hands on one leaf, and she gives that leaf up to save The Rock because she fell in love with him. I don't know about all that. It didn't seem.
I think it was more she wanted to break his curse, right? She wanted him to, because he was ready to just be done with, and like, dude, I've been alive for 100 years. I want to be dead, and I want to. I think she wanted that for him. Right. Where she kind of felt in the movie, she even said like, "You never seen anything." She's like, "No, I've seen this river change. I watched this river go from this to this to this to that. I've never seen anything else but this river." And she kind of felt bad for him. She's like, you never seen England, you never seen this, and so it's. And
then they had that whole scene with the. She would have been the world enough for me or something like that. And, her brother's like, he wanted me to tell you this. I'm like, come on, just let him be a freaking statue and go save the world.
Exactly. And it's like, again, you brought up Prince Joachim.
Joaquin, they call him Joaquin.
I mean, you're right. His storyline in the movie, it's like he wanted it for, again, back then, Nazis, German rights, or the Third Reich, they wanted it for this whole thing. That's where the whole Indiana Jones thing came in, because that's kind of like what they were doing in Indiana Jones too. He didn't really give a reason other than he wanted it for himself, and he wanted to, I had this whole feeling that he wanted to take over the Third Reich. He wanted to take over Hitler. I'm assuming Hitler was involved in everything there. But he didn't really say, why he wanted it. He was just there to, like you said earlier, he was just another bad guy to be part of the movie, because, we needed that bad guy,
Right. Because I think they wanted to just kind of give them a reason to be running for whatever reason, or have something to run from. Because
we didn't the Spaniards till like towards the middle of the movie, so we didn't get them. So
and I thought they were way cooler than the I was gonna say Russian, than the German guy.
Agreed.
Just because of course there was more CGI with them, and maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But it really didn't make sense to me, because I mean, I'm a bit of a World War II buff, right? And it's known that the Nazis were always after an edge, and they were there was actual part of the German army that were, their whole job were to look for these things like the Holy Grail and things like that. But how many people know that? You know what I mean? Yeah. So you had 2 hours to give us more of a backstory to this guy as to why he wanted the thing so bad. Then he's riding around in a what do you call that? A submarine in the Amazon. It's just like, this is a lot.
And I kept thinking it was the Nautilus, because that's kind of what it looked like to me. Was the Nautilus, if you guys don't know, is also a Disney movie. So was this like an Easter egg Nautilus for us? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was
maybe.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like, why were you there? And you had all this technology, and it's like you needed the egghead of Emily Blunt's character to find that map because you couldn't find it yourself, or find the tree because you couldn't find it yourself. But fast forward to the end, man. That whole end scene where they're trying to figure out the whole under the water through the stone. I mean, to me, that part was cool. I mean, it's just the whole, like, I couldn't tell if the mountains were going up, if the river was going lower, but we saw what happened. The submarine ended up just docking itself over at the thing, and it's like, all right. Let me ask you this: did you see, between Prince Hakeem and the brother, did you see a little love interest between those two?
Oh, interesting. When they took him captive.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to, but I kind of vaguely remember a scene where there's like a little banter between the two. And I didn't even think about that.
I was just thinking
maybe that was why they even brought that whole thing up earlier with her brother.
Yeah. Maybe so we don't be like, this is kind of creepy. What's going on? Like he gave, McGregor, the brother, gave, Prince Joachim this look, and then Prince Joachim kind of did the whole like, okay, okay. And I was like,
maybe.
What else happened inside that submarine?
Yeah. And I did like her brother's character too. He was pretty funny. He played that kind of that good role of like spaz and scared of everything, but really proper.
Yeah. It's like you don't need this suitcase in the beginning. That scene when they were going on to the boat or the cruise. I was like, wow, dude. He was like, where's your bag? She's like, right here. I'm like, yes. And he was like, I need this. I need an evening wear. That one scene.
One was like shoes.
The bags. That one scene when he's dressed for dinner and she's like, aren't you a little overdressed? It's hot here. He's like, I'm fine. And then they cut scene. He's like laying on the boat. He's like, oh, it's so hot.
Oh man. And that scene where they're throwing his luggage in the water, leave it up to my wife to notice that those were Goyard bags or boxes or whatever.
Yeah.
For those of you that are into designer bags, Goyard is like a Louis Vuitton sort of, really super expensive bags. But I guess back then, like Louis Vuitton, they used to make those kind of traveling crates or whatever. And so she's like, ooh, that's Goyard. I'm like, you would.
And you should tell your wife too that scene where they show his bags floating, like, because he's throwing them all there. That's actually on the ride also. There's a scene there's a part of the ride where the boat goes around and you just see a bunch of bags floating up on the water, and the cast member says, this is what happened to the last ship that came here. They overloaded them with suitcases. So that scene there, I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of cool that they're throwing that scene there. So
I appreciate when they do that, when they pay attention to detail and they bring that into like, but maybe, I kind of feel like we were talking about the writers of Marvel and the writers of Disney, and that they're a lot better in Marvel, but there's also a lot more to work with in Marvel. Think of just all the characters and all the stories that have happened over the years. They were trying to just take this ride and stretch it out into a full-length film. And I guess that's why they had to take from other things that have worked before and just slap it all together. I
mean, it's like, okay, so if I want to be nitpicky, the leopard there, the leopard had big scenes in the movie, but in the ride, the leopard was at the end of the ride standing next to Trader Sam when, you're at the end of the ride when Trader Sam says, I'll trade you 2 heads for 1. So the leopard had minimal scenes in the ride, but in the movie had a lot of scenes. You had an African elephant that was on the ride, the one with the big ears. There was also a bunch of natives that were hunting safari people that you were like, okay, where's this? They show the natives, but they don't show this, the safari people. There's this one scene in the ride where there's this big pole and there's these safari people that's climbing up the pole, and at the bottom there's a rhino, and he's like taking his horn and he's like trying to get the guy at the bottom, and the cast member says, I feel bad for the guy at the bottom because he he's might get it at the end, and that's kind of like one of those puns, right? I mean, if they threw something like that, if they threw oh, there's a rhino running through the village or running through the thing, and they show a bunch of guys running up there, that would have been a cool homage to the ride. If they would have shown like an African elephant and again, they say, how do you know it's an African elephant? Everybody goes, it's their ears. It's like, no, because we're in Africa. That's one of the one of the things they say. So if they showed stuff like that, I think I would have been like, oh, hey, cool. They're paying homage. I mean, they took little things from the ride and they didn't do justice to it. Where in Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm going to compare it to Pirates because Pirates did the same thing. Pirates paid homage to everything from the ride, from the fire, the burning building, to the drunk part of where they were. I forget the name of the little town that they were in. They paid homage to that, and the only thing they added different was the storyline and Jack Sparrow. Right, that's the only thing. But everything else, I was like, wow, they threw everything on the ride. Even the whole, the scene where the lady or the guy's getting dipped in the barrel and he's getting drowned in the movie in the ride. They threw that in the Pirates of the Caribbean. So. The guy laying down with the pigs, drunk as hell in Pirates, they threw that in the movie. So it's like those little subtle things that eagle eyes, Disney people would see, they should have thrown. And they didn't do this in this ride. So that was the only thing that was kind of like, all right, Disney, well, let's see what you're going to do to this movie that's going to pay homage to the ride.
Yeah, and I think also the problem is it kind of, the ride itself, it just has similar themes that we've seen before from them, and it also kind of reminded me a little bit of like Jumanji, the newer one with The Rock. So it's just like all these kind of elements, like how do you make it fresh? How do you make it new and different? And I think you do that with writing. I think you kind of really flesh out the story and go deeper into why these characters are doing this stuff, and they didn't do that, but. It was. I don't think anybody's really watching this movie for that anyway. We're, like you said, we're nitpicking. Ultimately, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I think it's a great family movie. I mean, I have problems going to the movie theater to watch anything over an hour, 45 minutes. Yeah. If it's not a Marvel movie or something like that, I don't know. I kind of stay away from it. So this is definitely a movie that I'm going to watch at home. Yeah. And I really am appreciating all these movies, doing the HBO Max release and the Disney premium stuff, because I'm all for it. I mean, I can't wait to go back to the movie theater to see like maybe the next Marvel movie or something like that, because those are the movies I look forward to seeing in the movie theater on the big screen. We talked about it last week, September 3rd, Shang-Chi. That's Labor Day weekend. And and I've been watching a lot of like trailers and reading up on it, so I'm excited about that. That's going to be a fun review. Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned last week. I forgot to rebuttal when you said that when we were talking about Awkwafina. I can use her without. I can use that movie without Awkwafina being there, because she's just going to be like we mentioned in all the movies, you always have to have that one comic relief to kind of like, she's going to be that character where she's just going to crack jokes, say something to kind of ease the tension between whatever's going on in the movie. But I don't find her funny. And she impressed me in was that Crazy Rich Asians? Yeah. Right. When she actually was acting, she has talent, but I have a problem with people who are trying to be funny. Yeah. It generally doesn't work for me. Like, not to say like, all right, you go to a comedy movie, they're trying to make you laugh, but they're not necessarily trying to be funny. They become the role. The script itself is what's funny, what makes you laugh. I just feel like she tries way too hard. Yeah. And so whenever I see her, I'm just like, I'm kind of always standoffish. Even her show, or was it Nora from Queens or something like that? I'm just like, I'll pass. My wife is excited about it, but I'm like, I'm good. Yeah. You can tell me about it. Tell me what you think. You and Eric can do a podcast about it. Nah. I'm going to go back to what you said. If we weren't doing this podcast and weren't talking about our true thoughts about this movie, I would have liked this movie a lot. I mean, I do like the movie a lot. I like the movie. I like all the things that was involved in the movie. But, as a Disney fan
as a movie fanatic and a big rock fan at that, I have to nitpick and I have to show what I liked and what I didn't like. And there was a lot more I didn't like about the movie than there's a lot more that I did like about the movie. But, you know, again, Disney did what they had to do to make this movie. And then we'll go back to the whole pandemic. This was probably most likely filmed during the pandemic. And that's why there was, that's probably why they had to write a script on, let's just make it on the river. And plus, you can't call it Jungle Cruise and you're in the middle of New York or in the middle of London, because like, where's the jungle now, right? So it's kind of like you had to keep it there. And the writing that they did about that, why they had to keep it there, was kind of cool. I like that storyline and how they had to keep it by the river, why he always had to stay close to the river. I like that storyline a lot. But again, just everything else just reminded me of another movie. And I hate that when I have to think of like, God, this is the Mummy.
Yeah.
This is the Mummy.
Yeah. Because then at that point, you're just comparing it to those movies. And if we're comparing it to The Mummy or Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, I don't think it holds up to those movies, because those are classics and they're, you know, trilogies, right? I think there's 3 mummies. There's a couple ones. Oh, actually, the Mummy helps spawn the Rock's character, no? Because isn't the Scorpion King from
That's right.
The Mummy?
Right.
So
That's right. Yeah.
So look at that. It all ties in together.
Ties in. Maybe you know, his character Frank Wolf becomes the Scorpion King, or maybe he's related to. I have this stupid. The reason why I said that to you about Paul Giamatti is because I have this stupid thing in my head where if I see a character and he plays an older character, like this movie is supposed to be like in the 1940s or whatever, something like that, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, look, it's you know, it's what's his name's grandson from NWA.
You can't help but like make the correlation.
I just now that you brought up the Rock and Scorpion King, maybe Frank Wolf is the great grandson of the Scorpion King. Well, I don't know. Yeah, this could have been in the same genre as The Mummy, though. I mean, it could have been the same year as The Mummy, just in a different location. Like, Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz was in the desert. These guys were in the Amazon and you know, doing the same exact thing. So
yeah, I feel like it is kind of set in the same time. And then the same thing, you have like the Nazi-ish bad guy, because I don't think they ever call them Nazis, but that's what they are, what they're supposed to represent. And
he said, I know he did mention the Third Reich.
He does. Okay.
So when he says the Third Reich, you already know what they're talking about. You know, he could have said the Third Reich, or he could have said the Reich or something like that. But when you say that, you already know they're talking about the Nazis. Was the Mummy? Were they involved with the Nazis? The Germans? Oh, they were, huh?
I think they were. Maybe I'm just confusing with Indiana Jones.
No. I think no. You're right. No, maybe it was one of the mummies where the Germans were involved. But I think in the first one, the Germans weren't involved. They were just trying to fight the Mummy.
Those might be something I can go back and give a second chance. Like I said, I watched the first one and I've seen bits and pieces of all the other ones, but it was just nothing I could really get into, just because Fraser kind of annoys me. Brendan Fraser.
Whatever his name is.
I don't know why. Just the look of his face. It's not fair. It has nothing to do with his acting.
It's not you. It's your face.
It's just what you look like.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, man. After part 2, or after part 2 of The Mummy, everything else is kind of just like rebuttal of what's going on. There's nothing new. It's the same damn storyline. And I think Rachel Weisz in the third one says, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. You know, let's find someone else. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think Disney, they kind of painted themselves into a corner with this one, just because, you know, when, like you said, the ride is called the Jungle Cruise. So you're leaving yourself not much room. We have to do this on the river. We got to do this. And so they did what they did, but
let's find a cool storyline that no one's ever done before. Let's write this script out that no one's ever done before. Give me 2 characters that we've never seen before. I'm like, okay. You gave us.
It reminded me of the episode of South Park where they made fun of Avatar and they were calling it Dances with Smurfs. Because the whole episode was basically saying how Avatar is the same exact story as Dances with Wolves, but just with blue people. So they were calling it Dances with Smurfs.
That's right. Think about that. That's right, huh?
Yeah. So I just kind of had the same feeling.
That's right. I never thought about that. You had the the whites trying to colonize. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Even
Same,
like that.
Same movie, just with Smurfs.
Oh man. The Tonka.
Yeah.
The Tonka. That's all. Every time I hear Dances with Wolves, that's all I kept thinking. That's all. The Tonka. But you know, don't again, for you guys who haven't watched it, big spoiler alert, but don't listen to me and say, you know, I know there's a bunch of you guys who's probably going to wait till it's free on Disney Plus before you watch it, which is cool. If it wasn't for this podcast, I probably would have done the same thing. Like, if you know, but I watched it. It was an enjoyable movie. It had a lot of, you know, this and that. It did keep you on the edge of your seat. If you take away everything that I just mentioned from the storyline, what it reminded me of, it was an enjoyable movie. I liked it.
Yeah, same here. I second that. I think you're a bit more of a Disney fan, and you're way more in tune with Easter eggs and things like that. So I could see how maybe those things may have, like, you know, kind of bothered you a little more than me. But yeah, I agree. It's, you can nitpick and you can find a lot of things wrong with the movie, but if you just want a, you know, funny family movie to watch on a Saturday, you know, this definitely fits the bill. You'll enjoy it. I'm positive you will. It's a pretty good movie in that respect.
I'm surprised they found a way to actually make a movie about the Jungle Cruise, because, like I said, on the ride, it's a 12-minute ride. It's one of those rides where I mentioned in the beginning, if it's longer than a 15-minute wait, you're not gonna wait for that ride just because you know you don't want to. That's all it is. That's my rule of thumb. If it's longer than a 15-minute wait, you're not getting on that ride. And once you do get on that ride, it's an entertaining ride. There's a lot of funny things. If you're a Disney nerd, I'm not considered a Disney nerd because there's Disney nerds out there. Well, borderline, but there's Disney nerds out there.
Disney geek.
Thanks, Joe. Okay. I can call myself a nerd, but I'm not the geek. How's that? You guys got people out there that knows what each cast member is gonna say. Like, I'm serious. Yeah. I sat on one of the boats one day, and there was a person next to me who knew exactly what this cast member was gonna say. And it was kind of funny because the cast member was kind of getting annoyed because the person was like, you know, saying it before he was saying it. So I was like, wow. So it makes you wonder, like, how many times do you get on the ride with this cast member saying the same exact thing over and over again? So it's kind of like,
those are the real Disney geeks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't go there wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt, guys. Come on. I don't.
Really?
I don't.
I do.
I don't.
I've only been like twice though, so I'm still a noob.
You're forced to. Joe, you're wearing the husband shirt today.
No, actually, you know, I usually wear, for whatever reason, I have a lot of Star Wars t-shirts. Not necessarily that big of a Star Wars fan. I just like the t-shirts. Yeah. So I usually get away with those at Disney. Yeah. But you know, when things open up, I would like to go a lot more. I have not taken advantage of Disneyland being as close as it is. Yeah. You know, when I lived in New York, Florida's a little farther away from New York than you know, Anaheim is from here. So that was really like a maybe once every couple of years thing. And even then we would just do usually, you know, Universal Studios. So I think when things open up, I'm going to take advantage of more of the Disney trips and then see, maybe I'll have a better insight the next Disney movie we watch and review. It's like, hey, I remember that.
Spoiler alert for you guys. This is a good segue to me plugging my show, the daily podcast with me, Eric B. I am going to be talking about the new annual passes that Disney is going to be that's Disney's offering August 23rd. That's coming out for everybody. I think August 25th or 23rd. They revamped a new season pass system. Okay. And they're redoing it. They're re-releasing it, and you know, tune in for the daily podcast and I'll talk about exactly what they're going to do, what you have to do, and how much money and arms, legs, and kids you have to sell before you buy the passes. So
cool. I'm definitely going to check that out. Are you getting the passes again this year or when next year maybe?
You know, okay, so I'm going to break it down like this. there's still the whole pandemic thing that freaks me out like crazy. And
Right.
just, in general, in my circle, there has been COVID related stuff that's happened at work just last week. I don't know if I text you that someone tested positive for COVID, and now, so my stress level, I do need a Disney fix right now.
Yeah.
And talking about these Disney movie helps a lot. But all the pictures that I've seen people posting at Disneyland without a mask, and they're like, they're like next to this person who they don't know. It's like there's still a pandemic going on.
Yeah, that is true. My wife and I went to Florida to visit my parents back in May when we were still kind of in the pandemic, and we met up with a friend of mine. Shout out to Charlie, and we didn't go to the parks. Him and his wife went to the parks, but we met them at Disney Springs, which is kind of like a Universal City Walk for you guys that don't know. It's
downtown.
It's free.
It's like downtown Disney, right?
Oh, downtown Disney. Sorry, downtown Disney. Yeah, it's free. They have a lot of shops. You can go shopping, eating, drinking, all that stuff, and it's really near the parks. It's right in between them. And when we went that weekend, they had just opened up to 85%, I believe it was, or 75%, something like that. Capacity. And that was our first time really doing anything since the beginning of the pandemic as far as going out anywhere. And I would say like 50% of the people there didn't have their masks on, at least. So I found myself going inside the shops a lot because you have to wear your mask in there and just kind of this fake shopping.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still not ready,
Yeah.
This thing's still going strong. So but I will be ready once it's cleared up.
I definitely want to go. I definitely am thinking about the season pass again. And I'll talk about the different tiers that they have and who's going to buy what kind of thing. But I want to go there. When I went there, the last time I went there was 2009. Was it 2020? It was February 2020. Right before the whole shutdown, like a week later, Disneyland closed. That's the last time I went there. And in my head, I kept thinking, I was even asking my kids was, just imagine if the pandemic came to America, because we didn't have it yet back then. This whole place would be empty. Nobody would be here. Disney would lose a lot of money. And, I was foreshadowing what was going to happen because look what happened, right? Crazy. And now that they're reopening up and there's this stupid Delta variant that Loki released,
there's a Lambda one on the horizon too. I don't know if you heard about that one.
I heard there was another. It was a super variant or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Is it called Lambda? Yeah, geez.
But I don't know I don't get who's skipping letters though. I don't know how they went from Delta to Lambda. Do they even understand
these scientists, man? These scientists. I mean, it's like I would have been happy with just calling it, COVID, coronavirus. And they said
Corona 2.0.
Corona was like, hey, you guys can't call it Corona. You're ruining our bottom line here. Yeah. Michelob Light is selling more than we are.
Yeah, they decided to go with an airline. They're like, I will just call it Delta. That's a shitty airline anyway. Yeah. Just kidding, Delta. If you're listening.
Delta. We'll call it Southwest, the Southwest variant. Man. There's just it's you want to talk about shitty, just call it United. United shitty to me.
Yeah.
United. Let's call it the United variant.
Yeah.
How is it?
Unless you guys want to sponsor us, and then in that case, we'll call it whatever the hell you want us to call it.
We'll call it wherever you want. Exactly. You want to sponsor this, the Ordinary Joe's podcast? We'll call it whatever virus you wanted to call it.
Exactly. And actually, speaking of, listen, anybody out there, if you have, business, big, small, whatever, and you want to sponsor us, man, just hit us up. DM, email, doesn't matter. We'll get back to you. That's something definitely we can do. And just let us know.
And what's in it for you? You get we'll plug you plug whatever you're selling, plug whatever you're cooking. If you're a food pastry person and you want to plug your food, and you guys want us you guys want us to do like a podcast taste test? Hey,
we'll do it.
Hey. This is another question I'm asking everybody. How many of you guys want to see the Ordinary Joes in the same room doing the first podcast together, in the same room. We'll keep our distance. We'll be 6 feet apart. We'll make sure that, we're safe. But leave me a message, leave me a comment down below, or not below, but in our Instagram and our email. Leave us a comment down below. Tell me if you guys want to see that happen, and me and Joe will try to make it happen. We got the gear.
Yeah, we got it.
I've been dying to use this extra mic for the longest time. Got an extra mic sitting right here.
Yeah, perfect.
So, this will be Joe's mic because, this is not my mic. But let us know. Let us know. We'll definitely do that. We'll come up with a topic. If you know what, let's do it that way. You guys come up with a topic. You tell us what you guys want us to talk about.
Perfect.
Whether it's a movie, movie preview, movie recap, whatever it is. Yeah. If it's something we already did, but you want us to do it again, and we'll do it in the same room, you let us know. We'll be more than happy to do it. So, Joe, to end it, what do you think of the movie? Do you like it? Do you recommend it?
I like it. I say if you're looking for a family friendly, funny movie to watch on a Friday, Saturday night, this is definitely for you. Don't expect too much story wise. And I think you'll be good. I think you'll enjoy it. I had fun. I laughed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the comical relief was there. The Rock was, the typical Rock, his character. I can't take him too serious. So like those love scenes that you were talking about, I couldn't take it. Even when he was trying to tell the story about the conquistadors and the little girl, I felt like busting out
the fake tears,
and the just like we were doing Owen Wilson with him trying to find his catchphrase. I watched this movie to death to see if he would do the whole "Let's go, run."
If you see him do the eyebrows.
He did mention the Rock, right? He did the granite thing, right? He's like, that's granite, the Rock right there. I'm like, throwing homage to himself. But it's a good movie. It's a funny movie. Definitely go watch it if you want to spend the $30, or if you want to wait till I don't know when they're going to do. September, I think, is what they said they're going to release it for free. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see Emily Blunt in the MCU. That's a rumor.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four. Yeah, him and her husband is going to play the Fantastic Four. They're going to be
that'll be cool.
They're going to be introduced, and the Fantastic Four's already been teased. We just don't know if it's going to be Emily Blunt and I forget her husband's name. Her real husband. Yeah, he's supposed to be. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like Emily Blunt. She's good.
And wouldn't it be funny if maybe this is a foreshadowing of The Rock being the Thing in the MCU?
That would be cool.
I can see him more as the Thing than anybody else as the Thing.
Yeah. Better than who do they have? What was it? The Commish? Yeah, the Commish. That guy, right? He's the one that played. I can't pick it up. Yeah. Can't think of his name.
It was better than the one they did with Michael B. Jordan. So that one.
No, yeah.
That was not. That one's been taken off Disney Plus for you guys who are trying to look for that one. That Fantastic Four has been dropped off Disney Plus because Disney said this is not. What's the word that they use? This is not part of the Disney storyline anymore.
Oh, nice. So
Fantastic Four with Michael B. Jordan has finally been dropped from the Disney family. So
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at them saying, "Hey, we messed up. This sucks. Yeah, we got rid of it.
Do it again. Let's do it again." All right, guys, this has been fun. Another cool podcast with the Ordinary Joes. We are definitely going to come up again next week with a movie, a topic.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Music, football is back.
Football's back. Yes, fantasy football's getting started.
This is me in fantasy football. I'm not doing fantasy football. No.
I'm already rounding up the troops. I'm the commissioner, so
if you need an extra person, then I'm definitely in. So
I may need you. I might have to take you up on that. Also.
I like the fantasy football. That's not so stress worthy. So if it's gonna be with the guys from the Woken Up Woke guys, then I'm definitely in with that one. So that's
You know how we are. We don't take anything too serious.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't need the hey man, you haven't played in 2 weeks. It's like, I forgot it started. No. It started.
Yeah, we don't have those guys. We have the type of guys that's like, hey, he hasn't played in 2 weeks.
That's our money right there. Yeah. So yeah, if you need an extra person, definitely let me know. I wouldn't mind, jumping on a nice casual fantasy football, and it's fun playing fantasy football with a bunch of New Yorkers too. So
yeah, sounds good.
New York Jets fans.
Fuck out of here.
Get out of here. Get out of here. All right, guys.
All right,
Thanks for listening. Again, you can follow us on the Ordinary Joe's Podcast on Instagram. Follow us on the Ordinary Podcast on YouTube, and email us at the ordinaryjoespodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, we are the Ordinary Joes.
Peace.
See ya.
Ordinary Joe's Podcast.